What you got there, Daddy?
You're our best shedder, Weezy.
She is, for having the issues that she has. So, y'all, people ask us why we have them on dry lots. I'm going to go over a little bit of that. The reason we have them on dry lots, why is that, Dad?
This.
Okay, let me explain it a little more in deity. Donkeys aren't meant to be on green pasture. If people would research that, you would see that donkeys' recommended diet is barley straw. If you can't do barley straw, then it's a grass hay without alfalfa. They're not recommended to be on pasture. They get overweight, which causes they can get laminitis. They can founder. Of course, they can colic, but they can colic without being on pasture as well. But and if they get obese, it can cause metabolic issues. So they can have other diseases that pop up. But Louise was Thelma and Wazy. She was on pasture when we got her, and she has a wider neck, and if you look at others, they do not. Miss Dahlia here. So if you see a donkey with a really wide neck, especially if it's on pasture, and it doesn't have to be on pasture, they can get overweight by eating alfalfa hay. Alfalfa hay is not good for donkeys either. When you start seeing the wider necks, and so we've kept her a little bit more in control because we have her here now and we have her on a dry lot. But if she was to stayed out on pasture, chances are she would have found her. We got lucky she hadn't found her when we bought her. But once they get obese, that neck eventually, see how hers kind of curves? It can fall over. This can roll over, and then it's called a broken crest. So we always wanted to keep ours as healthy as we could just because we love them. But also, we're a breeding farm. And if you're going to breed, you definitely don't want to be breeding overweight donkeys and donkeys that are, beyond their weight. So once their neck, so that donkeys build fat in their necks. And you can see she has some pads of fat here, and then they build them in their rump. So if you see donkeys with these guys don't have pads, they're just their hair, but she's the only one I got that has pads of fat on her sides, and you can see that there. But she didn't have any, does she?
Very little.
She was a little overweight when we got her too. She had fat in her neck, but she was also on pasture too. So, huh? What'd she do? Jane goes up and does that to them too. Yeah. So anyways, the other thing I like about dry lots is when you have donkeys on pasture, you don't realize if they're not eating. Murray said, hey, you pay attention to me. Daddy said, I'm going to bring you the bucket, Dad. Okay, so back to the other reason I like dry lots. So if I had my donkeys all on pasture and they're just out there eating, am I going to know? Donkeys are very stoic animals, which means they don't show if they're in pain or anything. A lot of times you don't know it till it's critical or it's too late. So if I have them on dry lots, I'm going to know if one's not eating because I feed them 3 times a day. And if one doesn't come up for hay when I feed, there's a problem. Either they're getting an impaction, they're colicking, they've got a dental issue. Something is not right if I have a donkey that doesn't come up to eat hay. If they're on pasture, I'm not going to notice that as fast because they're out there eating pasture. So even if I do bring in some hay, if have them on pasture, and I also am somebody who feeds hay too, they're doing the same thing over there. Melvin's rolling his bucket that way. He never rolls his bucket that way.
He learned something new.
He learned something new from you, Mary Jane and Amari. He said, look, I can do my bucket like that. So anyways, that's the other reason I like dry lots. I'm going to notice if somebody's spitting their hay back out because I'm out here feeding 3 times a day, changing their water and filling their water 3 times a day because I, again, do something that takes me more work, but it's better for my donkeys. And that is so we got Miss Weezy, Miss Thelma, and Miss Amari there with Daddy. When I use 5-gallon buckets to water, because I find that the buckets I can keep cleaner and I can dump their water easier every day, multiple times a day. And if something gets in one bucket, then they've still got other buckets to use. So, that's the other reason. Another thing I like about dry lots, but I haven't cleaned yet today, obviously, but it's easier to keep the poo up and keep flies down because I clean every day. But I cleaned yesterday morning, so now we're working on almost 2 days because I haven't cleaned yet today. So it's best to clean the same time of the day every day because then it don't look like this. But anyways, I'll get ready here in a minute and clean some. So, but anyways, that's why our donkeys are on dry lots. It's better to, and this is Amari and her mama grooming each other here. People, you know, they don't really, some ask, but some pretty much say, why don't you have your donkeys on that lush green grass? Think about it. They're donkeys. They're desert animals. They get obese easily. Watch ones that you've seen on pasture. Watch as you're researching, or you drive by, or you see videos to see if, you know, a donkey. I mean, like, hers isn't as wide as I've seen some. Hers is wide, but it's not as wide as I've seen some. And you know, like I said, we used to be a breeding farm. Last thing I'm gonna do is breed an overweight donkey. So, you know, we don't breed anymore because one, donkeys, there's too many need rescued. Since there's so many that need rescued, I definitely don't want to breed anymore. I'm never going to sell any because I love them, so I didn't breed them to make money on them. And Osmond's back. And so you know, hey, I'm coming, get some love. Come get some love. I need to get a little closer, Dad. I need to get a little closer. So they're still in the middle of losing their winter coats. They're kind of a mess. I haven't brushed them today, but in the summer I try to brush them just about every day, at least every other day, to try and get a bunch of that hair off. And Osmond's this is life out with our donkeys. Especially when you sit down. That's even more. But that's why we don't put them on there, because we do what's best for our donkeys. Recommended diet, barley straw. Recommended lot is a dry lot. Do they get out once in a while for some pasture time and stuff? Yes, they do. But we do it very limitedly. And we watch our hays that we feed. Right now we're feeding a little bit better hay. We're getting ready to go buy hay that's not so good and mix it, because I feel like I don't want to take a chance on my donkeys getting overweight on hay. So watch for donkeys with really thick necks. Again, their necks are not supposed to be thick. They're supposed to be thin, not like hers. And like I said, poor Wheezy, she said, but Mama, I shed out good and everything. I'm beautiful even with my bigger neck. Yes, you are, sweetie. I just meant that that's not how you're supposed to be, and you need to be on a different diet. So that's why they're on different diets. These are the two we've had that have had thick necks since we got them. Hers is pretty thick too. So this is why we keep our donkeys on dry lots, because we love them and we want them to live a long time, and we don't want them to founder. Look up founder laminitis, you know, and look up what the body weight or size of a donkey. If you're thinking about getting donkeys, research it. Research what their diet should be. Don't just get them and throw them out on a pasture. Research what it is. Research what their body should look like, so you know if you're breeding an overweight donkey. You know, one who's already storing a bunch of, because like I said, they store their fat in their necks, their rumps, or their rumps and their stomachs, all throughout their body. Daddy's he's getting all the love because I'm over here videoing. That's okay. I was getting love before you go. I know. They don't see Daddy very often, or they see him a lot, but in the summer during hay time, they don't see him as much. So they get a little bit excited when somebody new comes out. Oh no, it's on now. And when anybody sits down.